Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to Tales from Evansbourogh Meet the Hunters, a behind-the-scenes look at the minds that bring our hunters' characters to life in the Monster of the Week RPG show, Tales from Evansbourogh. I am your host, Stormy, the keeper of mysteries for the show, and today I am joined by Serafin the Midnight Bard, who plays Serafín Castillon, Castañeda de la Hoya, Cardinal. Welcome. That's the first time I've been able to properly say that name altogether.
It's good to be here, and I should mention that the last names, the order of them is not important, just as long as you remember all of them.
As long as they're all there, that's what matters.
That's right.
Good. So everybody watching, you will be able to find Serafin on Twitter at The Midnight Bard, as well as on YouTube at youtube.com/c/Serafin The Midnight Bard. How are you doing today, buddy?
I am doing fantastic, and also, if I may, just kind of throw a little bit of a self promo there.
Please, it's open to you.
I do also have my website up and running, themidnightbard.com.
Ooh.
It's the easiest way to find literally everything I'm into.
Nice.
I'm into, rather, I should say, everywhere I am. So
Yes.
it'll have links to all of my socials. It'll have link to all of my projects. It's fantastic.
Good.
And I say that because I built it myself.
Nice. Well, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Any cool things that have been happening? Any cool stuff has happened to you recently?
Let's see. I used to have my hair recently was just as long as yours, 100%. And I recently cut all of it off.
Oh.
And I thought the thing weighing down on me was my conscience. It turns out I just had too much hair.
It was all the hair.
It was all the hair.
I get that. I completely understand. This stuff is, I think right now, I'm more in the stage of like, not a day goes by that my mind doesn't manically want to get rid of this, but I'm like, I've had it too long. I got to stick with it.
Yes, and that was my thought process of it too. Also, like I'm very into metal music, and all of the metal bands sport the long hair, and in my head I was like, I bet you I look just as cool as those guys. And maybe, however, the feedback I was getting is no.
Yeah, I feel like at this point, if I were to cut my hair, Beth would like cry or disown me. One of the two things, or both. So
yeah.
But you play Serafín Castillon, Castañeda de la Hoya, Cardinal in our Monster of the Week game. What playbook do you use, my friend?
I'm using the Spellslinger.
Cool. Which is the magic caster, very much your Dresden type character that I imagine is always a lot of the main reference to look at. I always have to kind of describe characters whenever because we just started another campaign for like an in-person game with some of my local friends, and a person who had never played the game before, much like you guys, I had to like explain to them the different playbooks that there are, and I start off always by asking them, have you ever watched Supernatural or Buffy the Vampire Slayer?
Yes.
I was like, do you ever watch any of those? And they're like, yeah, I have. I was like, okay, this is going to be really easy to describe to you what the character is, because and then I just go through the list of like, so this is your Giles, this is your Xander, this is your Spike. It's like,
yes,
I always go through it like that.
And I got a lot of vibes from those guys whenever I was reading through the descriptions for the different character classes too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did.
Oh yeah, they are trying to get that chat box in a good spot. My live editing, moving it around and whatnot for everybody. There we go. I'll put it there for now.
There you go.
All right. Yeah, I think that'll be okay for the moment. So, for the next hour and a half-ish, we're going to be asking some questions to get to know Serafin a little bit more. I have some pre-prepped questions, and if any of you in the chat have questions for Serafin, make sure to throw those in the chat, and we will be happy to answer yours as the show goes on. So, if you are good to start,
let's start.
Ready for the weirdest interview of your life?
I can't be weirder than the last one I had where they kept trying to pin stuff on me and I said, you can prove nothing.
All right. So, for starters, this is not necessarily a question, but tell us something interesting about yourself that most people don't really know, or not a lot of people know.
I cry very openly at Disney Pixar movies. They get me in the feels every time. Every time I watch Encanto, man, I tear up at the end. It's horrible.
That was good.
And I feel like Coco was a personally designed attack against me.
That one is to date my favorite Disney Pixar movie because I thought it was beautifully animated, and I was an absolute baby at the end.
Yes.
Remember Me hit me so hard.
Oh God, Remember Me, dude. Like as soon as okay, because like they played that song several times in the movie. Yeah. But when it hit with the right context, I was like, "Oh no!"
No. And I have sometimes I not often because I'm mostly dumb, but there was that one moment where I predicted one thing just before it was going to happen, and it made it worse because I was like, oh, she's gonna have the picture of him, and then she did. I'm like, ah.
Yes, and it's one of those things like the Chekhov's gun in a movie. It's like, hey, you saw something, and it needs to be paid off. So whenever you see the torn picture, you're like, that other part that's been torn off is somewhere.
It's gotta be somewhere, man.
Right. And so, like whenever she had the picture, oh man, I was already bawling, but whenever she pulled it out, I was like, oh, come on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was
convinced
not
that somebody
okay.
No, I was not okay either. Mm-hmm. I'm convinced that somebody, one of the higher ups of Disney, is like, yeah, these are disguised as wholesome family movies, but we're really just hurting people because we like it.
We like to see how much of a meat grinder we can make for your emotions. I'll make that a little bit smaller there. Yeah, that should be fine. But yeah, though, well, now we know. We have. Now everybody knows that. I mean, I feel like there are some movies that it's very hard to not get emotional over. I know not everybody is a very emotional person when it comes to media. For the longest time, it took me personally forever to really get emotionally invested in a movie. But then, yeah, as soon as it started, it was I was opened up to a new world of emotion with these movies.
Yes.
So, go ahead, bud.
No, I was gonna say, one of the things is I am an amateur novelist. I've been working on my novel since high school.
Yeah.
Counting the years, I'm like, I can't count that high since high school.
It's been,
just trying to get that emotional payoff to something too, where you do have that impact on somebody where it moves them emotionally. It's just that is hard work.
Oh yeah.
So I 100% respect the people that can do it. If you can make that level of emotional impact on somebody, hats off to you.
It looks like we have our first in chat question from Gamma Akutabi, I believe.
Yeah, I was just reading it. Yes.
Yeah. Here is a question for you. If you had a choice of choosing only one waifu in Yu-Gi-Oh at the cost of having a 72% brick hand, and on any other deck that your waifu is not on, who would your waifu be?
Recently, I've started playing with the Rocket Dragon Link, and this is where my smooth brain is not serving me well. So I would say Chamber Dragon Maid, because Dragon Maid tidying is a good trap. So
yeah, I get you.
Yeah,
I understand. But go ahead.
No, yes, 100%. since I'm foreseeably for the in the near future going to be playing that one, Chamber Dragon Maid, I can brick and everything else. It doesn't matter.
I'll brick everything. I'll brick everything else other than Dragon Maid. So we have I know we were talking earlier about you playing the Spellslinger Serafin.
Mm-hmm.
One of my questions I have is, what made you choose that playbook?
Fairly simple. For one thing, I have a thing about wizards. I think they're cool, but I'm not thinking like a Harry Potter wizard. You know, I've never been kind of like those. The novels are fine. You know, like I like them for the time that they came out. But ever since, it's kind of like, you know, it just seems a little silly. I've always wanted a grittier wizard.
I understand.
So in my head, I kind of started a short story several times where I called it like aliens versus wizards, where the idea was going to be, you know, like a full-scale alien invasion on Earth.
Yeah.
And then it's at this point that the magical community makes itself known to humanity, say, hey, normally we like to keep things on the DL, but now this is an Earth-wide crisis, so we're here to stand in the front lines against the aliens. So I thought about doing that, and the wizard that I kept writing was like this gritty, like ex-Marine who also happened to secretly be a wizard.
Yeah.
And I thought, I was like, this is so cool. I am awesome for making Rambo the wizard. But what ends up happening is I started reading the novel by Jim Butcher, The Dresden Files, and Harry Dresden became instantly just like my favorite wizard in any type of media. So when I designed Serafin, it was kind of like I used Dresden as a template, you know. So I was like, okay, private investigator, you know, he has contacts in the police, and for the most part, you know, he's kind of a goofball that can be really dangerous because of what he can do. So that's kind of where I was going with it.
I guess.
And we have Helix in the chat who has played D&D with me before, and he always hears me start off these characters by saying, this is a character who has a lot of emotional weight behind him, but then my personality inevitably bleeds through.
Oh, yeah.
So it ends up being like, oh, yeah, he has a lot of emotional weight, but he's just a silly boy.
It is always the funniest character who has the tendency to have the most tragic, like, character arcs and backstory. I've noticed in every game that I have played, it always seems to be like
yes.
And I mean, it kind of adds that balance to it of that juxtaposition of the characters' actions versus their past, and that's one of the things that I always find very interesting about that, because you can have your very edgy characters, and they have their own place in RPGs. Right. Like every character has its place in RPGs that can fit very well and still be super compelling, even your edgiest characters, because we have a tendency to see the I guess the point to that is you always have a tendency to see the joke character and kind of become quickly endeared to them because of they're the funny one, you know, they are a funny character, and so you attach yourself relatively quickly to them if that's your type of character. So you get invested very quickly, and then you start to peel and unfold the tragedy behind the character.
Right. Yes.
Serafin's got some stuff that's gonna. I mean, if those of you who have not watched last week's episode, there's some stuff that's could be coming in the future for good old Serafin.
Yeah. That was a really conscious choice on my behalf too, because I was like, okay, I have a tendency to get lost in the comedy. I'm like, I got to remember, this is a character with a tragic past.
Yeah, I get you. I think
we gotta put some of that in there.
Yeah, that's the one thing that I've noticed and love from a GM standpoint of being able to work with. All of you built your characters with such, like, to me personally, very like easy to get into backstories and easy to invest emotionally into, because everybody's had such a rough go. Like, we have our fun, we have our jokes, but for people upcoming, like we are going to delve deeper into the pasts of each of the characters, but it gets rough.
Yeah,
we already had that from some of the nightmares with Bree, and some of the a little bit of peeks at Serafin in his home of stuff to come more with it. So I'm excited. But if another thing that I had, I think you already kind of answered the next question, which would be where did you get your inspiration for the character? So being primarily Dresden.
Yep.
Jim Butcher's Dresden Files, which those are very good. If any of you in chat or watching have not read them, please do. They are very, very, very good.
Oh, no kidding. I am. It is one of my goals. I have met one of my heroes, Stan Lee.
Oh,
my
nice.
next goal is Jim Butcher. I have
nice.
to.
Nice.
And maybe even like what's his name? Gosh, his name's escaping. James Marsters, who plays Spike in Buffy.
Yeah.
But in the audiobook version of the Dresden Files, he plays Harry Dresden, and in my mind, he is Harry Dresden.
That's who it is. What did you think of the series that they ended up doing with? I believe I forgot the actor's name. I know he's in
Paul
Arrow.
Blackthorne.
Paul Blackthorne.
Yes,
very good actor.
Yes.
I like him a lot. What do you think of his take of Dresden?
Excellent actor. I love him on Arrow, and I loved him in Dresden. What I didn't like about the series was that they deviated from the source material a lot to the point where it just became unrecognizable. Now, mind you, I got into the Dresden Files because of the TV show. So whenever I read the TV show, whenever I watched the TV show, I had the subtitles on the entire time. I was reading the TV show. But whenever I watched the TV show, I thought it was a really cool concept. I was like, this is awesome. This is funny. It's got heart. I really dig it. You know, it's kind of like this procedural crime drama with some supernatural stuff kind of sprinkled in for taste. And then I read the books and I said, oh, gosh, this is so much darker and so much grittier, and so the stakes are so high. This is amazing. I was like, how did the TV show ever get this so wrong? So, yeah.
Nice. So it looks like we do have another question in chat from Gamma. Which singer would you like to meet and greet? Would you like to do a meet and greet with?
Let's see. I would like to meet, recently I've gotten really big into these two particular bands, and here's the funny thing, they were both started by the same guy. So the guitarist for this band, he first started off a band called Beast in Black. He started off a band called Battle Beast. They're named similarly. He likes to stick to a theme, you see. So he started off Battle Beast, and I don't know why he left. It might have been creative differences. I don't know. I haven't read into it. But he started the band Beast in Black, and both of those bands are amazing. And I would love to do a meet and greet with both of the lead singers. So I would say lead singer Yannis Papadopoulos for Beast in Black is a man who has a vocal range that I envy so much. And if you ever watch, if you go on YouTube and you do, react to Beast in Black, X reacts to Beast in Black, doesn't matter. Everybody, upon first hearing his voice, is like, I was not expecting that. It's really great, and he can hit such high notes, and he can hit such weird guttural ranges that I'm just like, there is no way all of these sounds are coming from the same man. It's not possible. But then I started listening to the previous band, Battle Beast, and this one has a female lead singer. And they're both metal bands, but Nora Luhimo, which is the lead singer for the other band, is every bit as good. She is every bit as amazing, and I have a really hard time picking between which band I like better because they're both right there. And the fact that they were started by the same guy makes me wonder what kind of magic this man possesses.
Yeah. I get you. I understand. I understand that.
Somebody said, AM0648 says, "We love you, Serafin. I love you right back. I promise."
Nice. Yes, welcome. See everybody active in the chat. It's lovely having you all here for this Meet the Hunters, one of the first of these to come. And it's, I don't know, I'm so glad that we've been able to kind of meet up and get this game and whatnot going with you.
I'm having tons of fun.
Oh yeah. So go ahead.
I've taken part in a lot of like tabletop RPGs. Sometimes as a DM, sometimes as a player. I have a lot more fun as a player.
Yeah.
Being DM is tough work, which I just got to say I appreciate the work that you put into it. I really do.
Thank you, buddy. I've always had a lot more fun. I don't know why. I do love being a player. I love getting the opportunity to be a player, but I very much have a lot more of a soft spot being a GM or a DM, whatever it is, because so many people have so much cooler ideas than I do when it comes to making characters, and I love getting to see them and like raise those ideas up because people are so interesting when it comes to what they do with their character creations and stuff like that. So I was going to ask you, because that's one of the questions on my list here. What has been, so you've played other tabletop games, you've played other RPGs, you said Dungeons and Dragons. Are there any other games that you have played before?
No. As far as tabletop RPGs, Dungeons and Dragons has been pretty much my entire experience with the genre up until trying this.
So, what's been your favorite thing about playing Monster of the Week, comparatively to Dungeons and Dragons or stuff like that?
I like the fact that it's so much more streamlined. It is so much simpler than D&D. In D&D, you got to keep your stats constantly in your mind.
True.
And it really feels like a lot of the times it comes down to every battle is about math.
Yeah.
Math and positioning, which you would think I would love because I love Fire Emblem, and that's really all it is.
That's all it is. That's
so
true.
that's really all it is. And so I'm like, okay, you put the right class next to the right type of enemy, and then you let the stats do the work, But in a tabletop setting, I don't like it so much. So I enjoyed this one because it's more of a story, and the stats are there, but for the most part, you don't have to keep track of so much, and a lot of it just comes down to this is less about let's focus on beating the thing, and it's more of like let's focus on developing the story and the character, and that to me is amazing.
Yeah, Monster of the Week is my personal favorite RPG. They have other games that are set using what they refer to as a lot of people call them Powered by the Apocalypse games. And it's just essentially a lot of the games that use the 2d6 system and a lot more narratively driven. There's one called Masks. I can't off the top of my head. I'm not too sure who the creator is for it, but it's like superheroes essentially. That one's very fun. Then there's one called Impulse Drive, which is like your Star Wars, Star Trek. It's the space themed games, and those ones are a lot of fun. I've played and ran. I've played in Masks and Monster of the Week, ran Monster of the Week and Masks. I've played in Impulse Drive. I have not ran it because sci-fi is so much harder for me for some reason. I'm really good at doing I say good. I'm more comfortable at being working with like superhero mediums and horror mediums and stuff like that. But for some reason, sci-fi, you got to have at least some level of understanding of technology that is just beyond me.
Yeah, I mean, like a little bit, because it always comes down to me, in my opinion, like, hey, you know what? Like, really good sci-fi is really just magic, well disguised as science. So like,
yeah, right.
What could you magic in this situation? Now say some science that explains it, kinda.
the old complicated enough science could be considered magic, or complicated enough magic could be considered science or stuff like that.
Right, like literally anything Reed Richards does in the Fantastic Four comics, I'm like, there's no way this isn't magic. Stop lying.
Yeah, right. We do have one question in the chat from 242 that kind of adds in with a question that I had pre-prepared. Important question: do you eat at Arby's?
I eat at Arby's very frequently these days.
What if you could get from 242 in chat asks if you could get anything from Arby's? I'm assuming right now. What would you get?
Oh, the Euro, 100% with extra fries.
So good.
I said extra flies. I meant to say extra fries.
Euro with extra flies.
With extra flies, please.
Yes, and they're just.
I am secretly a frog.
Oh, jeez. So, would you say that your life has improved since you ate at Arby's? If so, how so?
It has improved significantly. So, funny thing, we once upon a time here in my hometown had so many Arby's.
Yeah.
and recently they're not gone, but they're a little more well hidden.
Yeah.
There's an equal amount. There is so many. But the thing is, they're not obvious. You have to go looking for them. And once upon a time, I was like, why so much Arby's? I mean, like, what's so I never see anyone eating there, you know? Like, nobody I know goes to Arby's.
Yeah.
So whenever we were starting this RPG, I remember you had asked the question, well, how did your characters meet? And I said the joke. We were all just sitting in Arby's in one day, and we realized we were all wearing the same exact T-shirt, and we just kind of hit it off because of that.
Yeah.
And I didn't expect for it to take off so much.
It has snowballed so fast and so loose. For those of you who have not seen and haven't followed us on Twitter at TF Evansbourogh, we post all of the updates and all of our updates, art, stuff like that, as well as the some occasional memes on there too. We have only one account that we follow, and only one account that unfortunately I plan on ever following, and that is the Arby's official Twitter page. It has become so, it's like, I don't understand why and how it has become so crucial.
It has become synonymous with the show almost, and I really do want Arby's to sponsor us eventually. Like this is my crusade. You see, we have a bot, but let's see.
Looks like somebody got it.
Somebody got it. Sweet.
Oh yeah, good. Patience is here. Good.
Yay! Thank you, Patience.
So we also have Arby's. It's something I don't want to say anything, but yeah,
it has the meats.
It does indeed have the meats. We have a question from Gamma in the chat once more. As a wizard, would you choose, or would you like to wield a staff, a short wand, a regular wand, or something else to cast your spells? I'm assuming this is the case if you, Serafin, were a wizard.
Let's see. So there is so many positives about all of these. So the thing about the short wands and like other small focuses is that they're easily concealed. So, you know, like if you're a wizard that's trying to be stealthy and infiltrate a place, you know, you can have your wand on you almost always and they wouldn't know.
Oh yeah.
However, there is nothing quite as commanding and badass as a staff. Like, you know, you slam that sucker on the ground, command attention from everyone around, and, you know, like, even if it wasn't, like, a big thing, you know, like, hey, you know what, this does nothing except for flair. I would love to just, like, slam the staff on the ground and just have, like, sparks fly up, you know, just...
Give the old
like,
Gandalf.
Exactly. Like, this is aesthetic only. This does nothing, but it looks baller.
Yeah, because like modern days, nobody's around nobody carries around like a walking stick very often anymore. You get your canes occasionally and your walkers, but like for those people who need it. But like good old fashioned wood walking sticks aren't exactly in style anymore, you know. So
yes, no, they're not. And here's the thing. That's one of the things that I liked about the Dresden Files TV show that I thought was cool, is that his staff was a hockey stick that he just engraved with runes. Yeah. And I was like, this is great. I love this.
Yeah.
In the books, he has a staff, and I'm like, okay, well that's not bad. I like that too. But
yeah, the show of that, yeah. We have the kind of related to like finding these weird obscure ways to like incorporate magic and stuff like that in there. Me and Beth have noticed since like playing Monster of the Week that there are so many shows that you could break down like Monster of the Week as or like as this could be a Monster of the Week campaign because so many characters. That's one of the things that I love about this game is they've done such a good job at generalizing the archetypes included in a lot of media like this, to where you could definitely easily look at something like Supernatural for those for the people who have watched it. You have, of course, I personally think that Dean in there would be the wronged playbook, which is what Bree is in our game. You'd have Sam, to me, would be a spooky because of like the powers he develops in early season, which being what our good Patience plays. And then you have Bobby Singer, who is clearly the expert archetype, Cass, who is clearly the divine playbook, and other things like that. We just recently watched a show on Amazon called Truth Seekers with Nick Frost, and Simon Pegg, and a few other actors that I have never seen before. But it's very good. It unfortunately got cut short at one season, even though I really enjoyed it.
Just like Firefly.
Yeah, thus is the curse of good media. But we were watching it, and the whole time we were just like, This has to have been a Monster of the Week campaign. Like, there's no way that this wasn't somebody's Monster of the Week campaign that they just turned into a story.
Right.
But
I want to say thank you to Somber Puppet, who just wished me a happy birthday and called me a gorgeous man.
Yeah, yep. This is a late, for those of you who do not know, this is a bit of a late, but birthday celebrating stream for our guest here, Serafin. Their birthday was yesterday, correct?
My birthday was yesterday, yes.
Good. So, yes, everybody, if you can, make sure to put happy birthdays in the chat. And go, I don't know, it's just, you got I hate, I don't, what's the word? I'm losing it, my mind.
We're both smooth brain today. It happens.
That means MCT has it.
I was chatting with her just before the stream started. I gotta go check on her.
She's stolen. But we have. All right, there we go. I'm back. Mine has returned. She's back. Are there? Kind of moving on with other questions, because I've got a lot of questions that have been related to the game that I have pre-prepared, and then we can move on to some more personal questions to learn a bit more about Serafin. Oh, we have Somber, a new follower. Thank you.
Hell yeah.
For following us here on Twitch. For those of you who are new and do not know, we are going to be doing a giveaway at 100 followers on Twitch, so if you have not already, please consider following. It's just as easy as pressing that button, okay? We just appreciate you all being here, and it is, I don't know, it's so many things have been so fun since we started this game, and I'm so glad I've been able to interact with you, Serafin, and our other players, as well as this community that we have. But we have one of the questions that I wanted to ask is, we are in a bit of a niche culture, you know? Me and you, both of us, being kind of horror-related content creators on YouTube. Are there any monsters that you personally believe exist?
Ooh, man. I do believe that there is a number of things that exist, in fact. For one thing, I think ghosts are real. That's to me like no. I do believe that a lot of the things that do exist are probably spiritual in nature, because just because we exist in one dimension doesn't mean that there aren't things that exist on a dimension higher, and we call those ghosts, we call those demons, we call those angels, we call those spirits, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that those are like the 100% that exist. There's some kind of spiritual something.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, I do want Mothman to be real so bad. I think he is just the coolest cryptid.
I get you. Yeah, it's there are so many things in this, and like so many places and things in this world that there has to be something,
Right.
Like there's all got to be something there that we haven't found even. And me being a person who's terrified of the ocean, I believe that a lot of it's there, and I don't want to fuck with that. Like, I personally believe that there's so much stuff in the ocean that has to exist. Like, somebody says a sea creature, I'm like, yeah, that probably is right.
Right. One thing that I should mention is that, golly, I swear I said that, and immediately as I said, the thought just escaped my brain.
Oh, no.
I should mention about, was it Mothman? Was it?
You did talk about you talked about Mothman.
I don't remember what I was going to say. That's weird.
Oh, no.
I love it whenever I start a train of thought and then immediately as I'm reaching it, the train leaves the station.
Yeah, they got us.
They got us.
They got us. So, well, we'll move to the next question. But long story of it there, or short story of it there, you personally believe that there are many things that do exist. I like one of my favorite things about talking that with people is a lot of people's different viewpoints on how things would be, like, I guess, categorized typically. Because there are so many things that people, I know I follow a lot of like folklore TikTokers and stuff personally.
Yeah.
And there's one person on there that likes to talk about Mothman, categorized. If they were to categorize them, they believe that they would be what is referred to as a banshee.
Ooh,
because
yes.
in folklore, banshees are typically signs of bad things to come. They are harbingers of ill events and whatnot to happen. So I liked getting to see different people's perspectives on that and whatnot. So it's always really fun. So next question that I have would be back related to Monster of the Week, is if you could play Monster of the Week with any celebrity, who would you want to play with? If we were going to play Tales from Evansbourogh, and got to get any celebrity guest as a hunter, who would you want to play with?
Two things here.
Sure.
So, two different celebrities, I should say. For one thing, it is a well-known fact that Vin Diesel is super into tabletop games.
Mm-hmm.
So, I would love to see what level of craziness he can bring onto there.
Yeah.
I keep thinking to myself that, there'll be one point where the big bad evil person will show up and just be like, I have your friends, Vin Diesel, and he'd be like, I don't have friends, I have family.
Oh.
So, like, I gotta picture something like that.
That'd be fun.
Also, surprisingly, I found that Henry Cavill is super into all this stuff. The guy who played Superman.
Yeah, I know Henry Cavill.
Oh yeah, and part of me is just like, I would love to have him on for a number of different reasons. One being that it's really weird that he and I belong to the same species.
Yeah, right. That man is a god, and nobody can convince me otherwise.
Yeah. On top of that, he's like super into like all the weird stuff that you would never picture, like a guy like this. I'm like,
such a nerd. But
he's such a nerd, and I'm just like, I feel like I would be distracted during the entire game. I'd be like, you are aware that you're gorgeous, correct?
Right, he is. Oh my gosh, I have such a. There are things that I should not say on Twitch that I want that man to do to me.
Yes.
There are so many things that I could go on and on about Henry Cavill.
Agreed. I'm like, look, I just gotta throw this out there. I am straight, but by golly, that man, I'm sorry, yes.
I am not, and it is a problem. And that's like, I wholeheartedly would love to have him on the show, but probably not for the exact reason. I would lose it. I don't know if I'd be able to actually like coherently run the game if I heard his voice in our chat.
Agreed. Same. One last one that I should throw in here, but I feel like he and I would end up kind of playing the same character, is Nathan Fillion.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I feel like if I have like a celebrity persona, that he and I are like the closest to each other.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, it kind of adds into the follow-up question, or a following question that I have in here. If this is another question for you from me here. If Tales from Evansbourogh had a live-action TV show, who would you want to cast to play Serafin?
Interesting question. Oh, okay. I have like a wish list of people who I want to play Serafin. So off the top of my head, man, I gotta start like looking through like my favorite. I love Zachary Levi as an actor, but I wouldn't want Zachary Levi from the Shazam movie. I feel like he's too buff. He is too cool. I liked him in the TV show Chuck, where he was just like a nerd fixing computers at Best Buy, and he just downloaded like super spy skills into his brain.
Yeah.
So he's like always out of his element, always kind of goofy, but still somewhat like dangerous because of what he can do.
Mm-hmm.
So I would think Zachary Levi from Chuck, absolutely 100%. That's a slam dunk.
Nice.
I don't know. I would say like a younger Nathan Fillion, like Firefly era Nathan Fillion.
Yeah, because that's always the big thing too. Is you would definitely want somebody who was tall. You want someone, or at least somebody who can stand on a box well.
Yes, somebody who can stand on a box well. I keep describing Serafin as at least like in the taller 6 feet range, but in my head I keep picturing him like just like towering over people. Like he's like he's no longer a person; he is an ent.
He's an ent. Wonderful.
It's like, we're in danger. He's like, no worries, little buddy. He just like picks up, Raven, Bree, and Patience in his massive hands and just stands to his full length. It's like, they can't get you up here.
Yeah, very Iron Giant.
Yes, like very Iron Giant.
Be good.
Now that I think about it, you know what? Like, based off of this wouldn't work because he is not Latin, but like I think that he's a good enough actor to where he could pass as it if he put some effort into it. Also, he is extremely tall, and just in the shows that he's been in, he's got all of the right qualifications. I think Jared Padalecki, who played Sam on Supernatural,
that's very fair. I think that would be. I think that'd be really cool. He's a huge dude. He is very like both like physically like muscly and tall wise.
Right.
He's a big guy. Another person who is surprisingly that I didn't realize was as tall as they were is Bo Burnham.
Yes.
Like that man.
Yeah. He's like you always think that he's tall because he's on stage, and that's not it.
No, he is huge.
Yeah, he's a massive human
being. If I remember correctly, I was watching like a height comparison. He's taller than Henry. He's taller than Henry Cavill.
Yes. Which is quite the feat because Henry Cavill is just like an Adonis human being,
man.
and I love it. I love to look upon him. He is my man crush.
Yeah. For sure. If we were to, I definitely agree with 42 in chat here. If we were ever to do any media based off of Tales from Evansbourogh, I would love to do animated for it. And I think the best way to capture all of your characters would be you guys. I would hands down, if I was ever given that opportunity, to put this as a show, I'd be like, no, I have to have, if it's animated, I have to have you guys. I can't do voice actors. I can't do other voice actors.
Yeah.
I would need you guys. And I have one more question here in regards to questions related to Monster of the Week. Unless anybody else has questions that they want to throw in chat there. If you were to switch Serafin to a different playbook, if you have any, or if you know of any other playbooks that you would switch him to, which one do you think you would choose?
Good golly, that is also a good question.
Mm-hmm.
I have the playbook here in my hand. Give me a second.
Yeah.
I keep thinking that technically the wronged works for him because of the way that I envisioned his story developing.
Mm-hmm.
Which I'm looking at my playbook right now, and I'm realizing that we've never used Serafin's nickname El Taco, but that's okay. The Chosen, I guess, if I stretch the story a little bit, could work, but like it would have to be like I have no clue that I am this.
Mm-hmm.
Divine doesn't work. The Expert, sorta, maybe not.
Mm-hmm.
The Initiate, definitely not. The Monstrous, no.
There's one in that I don't have it posted in our group, but it's from the Tome of Mysteries, which was the expansion book that they made for Monster of the Week, which they introduced 3 new playbooks in, and it's been out for a bit. I just haven't ran any of them just yet, but it's called The Gumshoe. Like, it's literally like a gumshoe detective.
Yes.
And I'm like, this is... We've managed to make characters who are just these other playbooks, but I still I wouldn't have it any other way because I love your characters that you guys have created. But like,
yeah,
I saw that and I'm like, this is literally Serafin.
Yeah, and again, it's just for using Dresden as a template. I was like, it's gonna be the best of both worlds, But so the fact that there is a gumshoe, that's hilarious to me.
Yeah. Yep. And so. We're going to move on to more personal questions here because you have, I know you are a horror narrator on YouTube, as put earlier at youtube.com/c/Serafin the Midnight Bard. When did you start narrating on YouTube?
This is my second birthday on YouTube, so that would have been about 2 years ago.
2 years ago. And how would you say has your life changed since then?
It's changed quite a lot, actually, because I became a narrator right around quarantine time, whenever that started. So it was kind of, there was zero socializing. There was nothing to do but go to work and then nothing, So it was kind of like me and my wife were spending a lot of time just playing Pokemon Sword and Shield.
Yeah.
So. And, coincidentally, that's kind of how becoming a horror narrator came about, is because I was playing Fire Emblem 3 Houses at the time, and which is a phenomenal game. I love that game so much. And this is no lie, I have checked my Switch's, data on me. There is 400 plus hours on Fire Emblem 3 Houses.
Jeez.
I played the heck out of that game. I was like, I need all endings just to make sure that all of my... Yeah, because, you play a teacher in that game, and all of your character units are your students. And I was like, I need to know that they all live happy lives, okay? I need to know.
I feel you.
So it was kind of like that, where I was like, I love this game. And, just on YouTube one time while looking up different character builds, I found a channel called Anime Vice. And they were running interviews with the voice cast. And the voice cast was like, you have no idea how much fun it is to be a voice actor.
Yeah.
And me, a theater kid, I was like, I did enjoy my time on stage. Like maybe voice acting is something I could do.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's how I ended up on YouTube. And at first, I wasn't expecting a lot. And what I got was a whole lot of friendships that just came out of the woodwork. So there's a lot of people that I now speak to on the daily. They're friends, they're not just like people I know online. So that's kind of a lot of fun. I've gotten attention from idols that I had
the
Dark Somnium did a video with me. And
Yeah.
that wasn't like my doing. It was all Fearsome who plays Bree in the show, who one time whenever I got my first voice acting paid gig,
Yeah.
and my content on my channel was becoming a little scarce. She kind of like put things together, says, hey, you know what, just record a story, I'll take care of the editing, I'll take care of this, and I'll even invite some guests. And I said, okay. And next thing I know, she says, okay, so this is the person that I got, and they're great, but she didn't tell me who it was. So she was just like, yeah, you're gonna be surprised. It's great. He's the best. And I said, ha, yeah, I would be very surprised if this was the Dark Somnium. And then she says, well, and I said, you didn't. No, you didn't. I was like, Bree, we should have done a longer story. We should have done something more grand scale. So, like I've gotten attention from people who I really looked up to. I've gotten paid voice work, which is exciting.
Which you just did. You just did a audiobook on Audible, correct? Magician's Rising.
I've done 3 audiobooks
now.
Done
3 of them now. Nice.
Yes, I've done Magician's Rising is the first one that I did, and that was my first try at audio editing for a book.
Yeah.
So it's I gave it my best shot, but I feel like it's not me sticking my landing. It's very much like your first YouTube video. You're gonna have some hiccups. It's not gonna be perfect, but it is your first step. However, the author Renee Delorier did get in contact with me because she liked what I did, so she sent me the prequel, which is now also on Audible. It's called Assassin's Order. And so we have both the prequel, Assassin's Order, which I was like, okay, this is me just really nailing it.
Yeah.
And we have the original book, what's it called? Magician Rising, which was me giving it my first college try.
Yeah.
And in between, we have a book called The Barons, a supernatural horror book, which is more along the lines of my normal fare, which is a horror story.
Yeah.
So, whereas Assassin's Order and Magician Rising are both kind of like these urban fantasy stories, The Barons is a horror book about a cryptid living in the woods.
Ooh.
So it's a lot of fun, and that one right there, I really had to flex like the voice acting muscles because there was a lot of characters.
Yeah.
There was in the neighborhood of like 15 characters, and each one of them had to be unique. Each one of them had to have their own voice, and I gave it my best shot. So that was exciting.
Nice.
So there's those 3, and there's one that's been stuck in production hell for like ever. for like ever. It was literally the first one I auditioned to, and they said yes. And the second one that said yes to me got published first, and that one's been stuck. Like there's just a lot that Amazon says, okay, there's wrong things on all sides here, and mostly it's because credit's got to be given where credit is due, and this is an anthology series with a lot of different authors.
Yeah.
And Amazon and Audible was like, everybody has to have credit. If they participated in this, they have to be listed in the correct order. And it's kind of one of those things where, like, okay, well, all their names aren't on the cover of the book, and they have to be.
Oh, no.
And so it's kind of like that. And, to the credit of the production company, they're like, okay, well, their names are listed at the start of each of their chapters, and they are listed in our table of contents, and they are listed at the end of the book. So, they're listed everywhere in the book. It's not that we didn't list them. It's just there's kind of like this weird hiccup where it's like, okay, yeah, but you have to list them correctly. So it's kind of like that.
I got you. Out of curiosity, what has been your least favorite thing about YouTube? About once you've gotten started on that? It's been one of your least favorite things about that.
I actually don't have a lot of least favorite things about YouTube. I like YouTube a lot as a platform, and the algorithms can be a little weird, but that's to be expected. I mean, it's going to put you wherever people are more likely to enjoy your content, and they are a business. They're not just there to make you feel good, so they do have this tendency of pushing you through whenever you're getting the most views. So a lot of the stuff where it's like, oh, well, this is kind of annoying. It's kind of like, well, I can understand where they're coming from.
Yeah.
I haven't really gotten any negative feedback on anything I've done, so everything there is good. I think if I had to complain about anything, it's just that I don't have much more time to put a lot more content up because I
Yeah.
would love to.
I get you there.
Yeah.
What underrated tools are kind of, would you say, are indispensable for you using whenever you're making videos and content, voice acting and stuff like that?
Um, a good microphone is a great place to start.
Yeah.
I just want to say that. Not that you can't start with like your average everyday, Yeti snowball. You
Yeah.
absolutely can. But there, okay, so I did my first 2 audiobooks on a Yeti.
Mm-hmm.
And the amount of editing I had to do because of the hiccups on the Yeti were really frustrating. And it's not that the Yeti's not a good mic.
Mm-hmm.
It's that it's not designed for that. It's a different type of microphone. Recently, I've switched to a different type of microphone that is very specifically designed so that it captures your voice and nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
So that right there has taken so much time out of editing, and it's really fantastic, and I love it.
Which mic do you use, or if you're willing to say?
It's a Samsung Q2U, and I gotta think 242 because you see her in the chat. You're welcome, Serafin. She's the one. She's the one that recommended it. She said, "Hey, or actually, I think I asked her, in fact, because she was showing me her setup. She was showing me her computer setup, and I saw the microphone in one of the pictures, and I said, "Hey, that's not a Yeti." And she said, "No, it's not. This is a Samsung Q2U." And I said, "Oh, okay. Is it good?" And she recommended it a lot, and it ended up being really amazing. As far as software and stuff goes, since I'm mostly narrating, I try not to get too involved into the video editing, but I do like to give my audience kind of like something to look at.
Mm-hmm.
So I use audio visualizers, which is the same stuff that you would normally see on like a Windows media player, that it just kind of like creates these color patterns and stuff so that you can kind of have something to look at, let yourself drift off, whenever the thing is playing. So it's actually, it's a little something, it's so that it's not just a static picture on the video.
Mm-hmm. I get you.
Yeah, so there's that. And yeah, so those things I think would go a long way, just setting you apart. Other than that, the filters in an editing software is something really good to get familiar with. It gives you so much to work with whenever you're trying to do different things. Like, so for example, I usually, like, if there's more than one character in a story, I like to include another narrator just to kind of like get that difference in voices. Unless it's a short story, in which case I'll do all the voices myself. But sometimes you won't have the time to get lines from somebody else.
Yeah.
So you have to do the voice yourself. And there's filters there that'll change the pitch of your voice so that you sound like a completely different person, and that is so much fun.
Yeah, I get you.
Yeah.
I understand.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, cool. Would you say I guess I'll ask, who would you say, if you were to pick a person, has been the most influential person in your decisions when it comes to your like path of this like YouTube voice acting career, essentially?
That is an interesting one. Because I don't know, I guess in the YouTube path, I love YouTubers like Mr. GG.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of GG too.
I love the way that he can just turn on a microphone and just give us his take.
Yeah.
And you don't have to agree with him, but by golly, he's going to be interesting the entire time that he's talking.
Yeah.
And I would love to be that type of YouTuber. Like I would love to just, like turn on the mic and just say what's on my mind. And whether it's true or not, you're at least going to be entertained. But there's these other things though. So like I as you can probably tell, I kind of have like this affinity for comedy.
Yeah.
But I also like to talk about like, I don't want to say more serious matters, but matters that I would like to be taken a little more seriously. I could still present them in a comedic fashion, but like it's something like, hey, this is here to make you think a little bit.
Yeah.
Like for example, one of my favorite YouTubers is a guy called the Armored Skeptic.
Okay.
And the Armored Skeptic, what he does is he talks about weird things like, hey, history says that this happened, and mythology says that this happened. Now, it's a little weird that these things have these types of coincidences going on. So he'll like talk about like really weird conspiracy theories and, like weird mythology that somehow perfectly fits into certain narratives and, stuff like that. And he always does it with a joke. He's never like, hey, the world is coming to an end. I'm a tinfoil hat guy. But, just kind of like this very, I'm throwing some things out there at you. What you do with it is your call, but at the very same time, I'm sitting there going like, "By golly, you're right. Bigfoot did build, New England. He did." So, I would love to be that kind of YouTuber too. So kind of like somewhere in the middle, I guess. So those two guys, I really look up to them. As far as voice acting goes, I really, really liked the Dark Somnium. I got started in horror because I liked his stuff. Like he's really good, and he has a way of delivering, just the story that's just like, I love this.
Yeah.
And he does all of his own music too.
Oh, I didn't.
Which to me is just like, wow, this is incredible.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's a really cool dude.
Cool. Would you say is the best compliment that you have ever gotten? And this one doesn't necessarily have to be for YouTube. This could just be around, like in general question through your life. What would you personally say has been the biggest, like in your opinion, the best compliment you have ever gotten?
Okay. Yeah, I might break down in tears here for this one.
Okay.
Because
All right.
So whenever I started on YouTube, it was kind of like a really weird time for me, like I mentioned, because pandemic had started. For a while, my job was like, hey, we don't know how this is going to affect, so nobody has work, so I was just kind of at home doing nothing. And my wife kind of had like, she has one of those essential jobs. She works at a hospital, so she kind of had to go to work all the time. So I had nothing but time on my hand for 2 months where I would just stay home and do nothing, kind of like waiting for a phone call from my job.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, it's just, I did have a tragedy that happened that my best friend of 20 years did come down with the virus, and he did pass away. And he's part of my anime origin story, I should say, because it's no mystery that I'm a huge fan of Yu-Gi-Oh. That is my game. I would have never gotten into that game if he hadn't pressured me so much. Yeah, when we were kids, he said, "Buy a deck so we can duel." And it's just kind of like this huge thing where, But here's the thing. I admired him because he always had like this, to me, he always had like this drive, this passion. He had like this way of making friends and, just being like very open. He was a social butterfly. Whereas me, I am a horrible goblin that lives in the dark. I don't like to be, I'm not very social, and it's not because I don't want to be. It's just that I'm terrified of making connections. But so, like, I would have never been friends with him if he hadn't just one day decided, I'm adopting you as a friend.
Yeah.
You're coming with me. So,
always how it goes.
Yeah, so, whenever he passed away, so, I took it really hard. We'd been friends for 20 years, like he was going to be in my wedding, and then he wasn't. So, so just kind of like during this time, it was a really dark time, and I just felt like I had no connection with anybody. This is before I started making friends in the YouTube community and all that. So it was kind of like I have IRL friends. Helix is in the chat, and and all that. So it's not like they weren't there, but it was a time when we could not interact with people because of what was going on in the world.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like really scary to be anywhere near anybody. I couldn't even see my sister, and she lives here close to me in town. So it was kind of just so just kind of like a very lonesome situation. And I kind of just started reaching out to people on Twitter, and on YouTube. And whenever people would comment, I would just start making conversation, and, just kind of like, not a like I'm lonely type of situation, but because in my head something said, you know what, I'm probably not the only one that feels this way.
Yeah.
It's possible that there are other people just like me, locked in their own house, and they this is what they're doing. They're sitting on YouTube watching a video from somebody.
Yeah.
And have nothing else to do or no one else to speak to for the rest of the day. So I start talking to them.
Mm-hmm.
And, I start, instead of like waiting for somebody else to adopt me, like my friend did that long time ago, I started opening up to others, just kind of, all right, well, let's go. Let's speak to people. Let's say hello. Let's introduce ourselves and just really let ourselves be open, available, and vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until like maybe 2 months later that somebody who a lot of us are really familiar with on the Twitter realm, but I'm not going to say because I'm not sure that this is something that they'd want out there. But she reached out to me and she said, "Hey, I just want to let you know that I see all the good that you're throwing into all of this community. I want to let you know that I see all the love that you reach out to people with, and I just want to say that I appreciate it more than you could ever know. And you are seen.
Mm-hmm.
I see you. I see what you're doing, and I appreciate it more than I could ever say." And oh my God, that broke me to pieces because I was like, like you have no idea, like, just how much I needed to hear that. It's just kind of like it would have been one of those things like, are you crying? I'm like, I'm not crying,
No,
you're crying.
You're crying.
I'm like, you don't.
Yeah, I feel you. I understand.
Yeah,
and it's I at this point, the people that we interact with, there's barely a person that I know and that I don't get the chance to talk to as many people nearly as you do. So I know that I can guarantee there isn't a person in our little community that doesn't know who you are at this point.
Yeah.
And it's very me personally, I am very, very grateful for that one interview that we did with CCG and back in the old Tomb Talk when it was that. But I am so grateful that I got that opportunity to meet you there.
Yeah, same. Mm-hmm.
But we got into a little bit that more emotional, personal questions. So what we're gonna move to is some of the bigger questions.
Okay.
All right. So we have one of the weird questions that I found, but I think has a lot of big stuff to it. If you could have 3 wishes granted to you.
Mm-hmm.
Now, of course, the stipulation of no wishing for more wishes. But if you could have 3 wishes granted to you, what would you wish for?
A bag of Smurfs, a hammer, and the world's greatest chili dog. Just off the top of my head, just like firing, because I'm like, dang it, if I really stop and think about the wishes, I'm gonna get like really deep into it. I'm like, damn it, I gotta think about like this and
Yep.
So I'm like, you know what? Off the top of my head, first things that come to mind: bag of Smurfs, a hammer,
and the world's best chili dog. And yes, Gamma, there are no monkey's paws effects to these wishes. You are gonna get that bag of Smurfs, that good hammer, and that world's best chili dog. Yeah, for sure, buddy. You got those wishes. We have another one. If you were, what are 3 movies that you would recommend to our audience and why?
Oh, by golly. So I have an intellectual one, a nerdy one, and the meat brain. This is my movie to watch whenever I just unga bunga. So my unga bunga movie is one called Never Back Down.
Never Back Down. I know.
Yeah.
I know what one movie you're talking about.
Yeah, I love that movie. For people who don't know, I did practice martial arts ever since I was a youngin', and I was on a competitive team in college. that movie to me was just like, oh, this, like, I get it, like, but my emo 16-year-old self just understood. You're like, yes, the anger, I get it.
The rage, the
fight,
angst.
but the fight, like, this is like the Bon Jovi song. You live for the fight because it's all that you've got.
Yeah.
So like I get it, and I was like, hell yeah, and just like take those bullies down a notch. You show them.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it has like this weird heart that comes out of it, where it's like, hey, it's like the shield of Achilles. You fight so that you don't have to fight anymore. I'm like, yes, I get it. Stop.
Look at you, man.
Yeah, so like I love that movie. So yeah, the intellectual one, I freaking love Inception.
Inception, yeah, it's very good.
Very well made. They're just, by golly, that is good movie, man. That is like, it is so deep. There's like so many characters that are like just really, really good, except for one of them, which I won't say, but but it's got Michael Caine in it. It's got Leonardo DiCaprio. It's great, and Leonardo DiCaprio, just as an actor, just, I feel he's under recognized by the Academy. That man is amazing.
Of course he is.
And just the sci-fi of it, it's just like, oh, this is wow, like, just wow.
One thing that I will definitely give, while I have not watched as many of Nolan's movies, and personally, though he has one of the better Batman movies, I was never a full fan of like the vision of that he created for the Batman trilogy that he did. This is just a personal take for me. I will never deny his like talent as a filmmaker.
No kidding. Yes,
he is a very, very talented filmmaker. And yeah, that's definitely, I can agree with you that Inception is a very, very, very well done movie.
And
one more.
Lastly, for my nerdy pick, I love Guardians of the Galaxy because I don't know if you've noticed, but Star-Lord and I are the same person.
It's very fair. Yep, I get you.
I don't have the Chris Pratt looks, but by golly, I have the personality.
I have a few more questions here, because we're getting towards the end of tonight's show, but I've got just a few more questions. So, one that I have: if you could be remembered for one thing, what would it be?
So, I've mentioned that I love the Dresden Files. So I'm gonna answer this question by just kind of putting like a little bit of an anecdote from the books.
Sure.
There's kind of this thing with Harry Dresden where he would live a lot longer if he learned to just not care.
Yeah.
He involves himself a lot in doing the right thing, even when he knows that there's gonna be hard repercussions for it. At one point, one of his enemies invites him to kind of a gala, and they're vampires. So, they got like this thing where it's like, hey, whenever you come to a vampire party, the vampire gives you a present. That it's what they do. It's their thing.
Yeah.
The present that she gave him is a very thinly veiled threat. She gave him a plot where he was to be buried, and a tombstone that says, "Here lies Harry Dresden. He died doing the right thing."
Yeah.
And I was like, ooh, that's... That's good writing. Oh my God. I was like, yeah. And in my mind, I keep thinking to myself, if I was ever to be remembered for something, that's something that I would want to be remembered for is, like, hey, this is a guy that, in the end, he was doing the right thing. Yeah. And, he put people first, and that's what he cared about. And I just feel like that's something that is always on the forefront of my mind. Is always treat people with kindness, with courtesy, and always make sure that they understand that you're listening to them and that you care.
Yeah, I get you. And we have a couple more. What is one question that you wish I had asked you during this interview? And if so, how would you have answered the question?
Let's see. Question that I wish you had asked me is cheese? Question mark?
Question mark?
And I would have responded by saying, please.
Please. I like it. I like that. So, we're coming on the last question here.
Okay.
I can't talk. Do you have any advice for our audience before our last question? Any nuggets of knowledge that you would want to give out to our audience before the very last question?
Yeah. Let's see. So, hi, I am Serafin the Midnight Bard. Mm-hmm. We've had a lot of fun here today, but now I want to speak about... Sorry. That's become kind of like a meme.
No,
I did
it
once, and I did it the second time, and I was like, oh, this is just going to become an ongoing thing, isn't it?
This is it.
No, but so my advice is fair and simple. Is like, hey, if you love something, give it everything you got. Mm-hmm. There's gonna be the people standing on the sidelines asking you, like, hey, what do you think you're doing? Like, what are you hoping to accomplish? And what you're hoping to accomplish is to live your best life. No questions asked.
Yeah.
So, give it 100% all the time. And always remember that the only thing that can stop you is the thing that you let stop you. Because I'm very much of the mind that, if you fight for something, even if you don't land where you want to land, you're gonna land somewhere way better than that you were hoping for, or way better than where you were. Yeah. The only time that you don't land somewhere else is when you're not moving. So 100% push forward, give it everything you got, and just kind of like a little tidbit here is it never hurts to reach out to people if you're struggling. Definitely say, hey, like, I'm going through some dark times, Serafin, and Serafin will say, that's a terrible thing, and I'm not a licensed therapist, but you're welcome to speak to me. I am a happy guy.
Never be afraid to ask for assistance.
Right.
Wonderful. Now, this has been a very fun interview, and I have enjoyed all of this time that I've gotten to spend answering these questions with you. You are you're a wonderful person to hang out with.
Thank you.
So, I am not going to elaborate on this question.
Okay.
I am just going to ask it, and you give me what you feel is the best answer for this question. And know that there are no right or wrong answers for this question, okay?
Got it.
When will you wake up?
Damn it. Later than I should. That's for damn sure.
Great. So, well, everyone, thank you so much for coming to today's Tales from Evansbourogh Meet the Hunter stream. We hope that you all enjoyed today's show. Again, thank you so much for our guest, Serafin, the Midnight Bard. If none of you are, I know most of you are, but if anybody who is watching this or listening now hasn't, please make sure to check them out on Twitter at the Midnight Bard, as well as YouTube at youtube.com/c/Serafin the Midnight Bard. And you said your website?
TheMidnightBard.com.
MidnightBard.com. And make sure everybody to tune in April 16th at 7:30 p.m. EST for the next episode of Tales from Evansbourogh. But until then, please, everybody, have a wonderful night, and we hope to see you in the next tale, if, of course, we all survive. Have a wonderful night.